Hello, my lovely rose garden. We're back from Sac Anime, and you're back to Throne of Ass. This is Avalon Roselin.
And Ray.
And Winnie. She's so happy we're home. She was all alone for a whole day. A whole 24 hours. We lied and told her we were only gone for 1 hour, but still, she's been very clingy since we got back. Speaking of clinging to things, we left off in the midst of a challenge that, for some reason, they're doing for a King's Champion to see who can scale the castle walls. Okay.
Just 'cause.
Literal weird flex. But yeah, we actually had it broken up into more than one chapter, which is honestly more attention than I thought it was going to get at this point. Nox is falling off of a thing. He's about to have a Disney villain death. And Alexis has thrown herself off the wall to rescue him.
Please disqualify this woman.
Yeah, like, she ties a rope and jumps off, and I'm like... she turns to the mercenary who's near her, and she goes, "Touch this rope and I'll kill you." But, like, how are you gonna do that, bitch? He could just drop that rope and you're dead.
And you would die.
Like, clearly they don't care if the champions kill each other, because Kane just fucking killed a guy, didn't he?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm getting this mixed up with Fourth Wing, which I have also started reading. That was another patron request. And if you have a request that you would love to see me read and review, go ahead and join our Patreon. Woo!
Yay!
You get all kinds of cool rewards and stuff, including access to the patron exclusive series, Keep It in the Drafts, where we talk about my old writing with the exact same treatment that we give Throne of Ass. So if you think, oh, you're so hard on this book, I bet you've made dumb mistakes too. Yes, I have made dumb mistakes, and I am just as hard on myself, if not harder. So if that sounds like a good time, $2 a month will get you access to that. I've also added a new $1 tier for people who just want to give me a little tip jar, and that will get your name in the description of videos, and will get you access to the Discord server for early access to videos and exclusive access to certain content. That requires a $2 monthly subscription, and the rewards just get better the higher up you go. Alright, we did our Patreon plug. Caught up to where we are. It's been like a week since we read this, because we've been busy at a convention. And here we go. Wind tore at her, but Alexis kept her focus on Nox, falling so fast, so far from her outstretched hands. People shouted below, and the light bouncing off the glass castle blinded her. Yeah, that's something we haven't brought up yet. So wasn't there... And I'm not even going to attempt to say where this was, because I know I will be misremembering it. But isn't it a thing where, like, sunlight travels through glass, and if you built that shit the wrong way, it just turns into a laser beam that will start fires? Like...
Yeah.
Didn't that happen somewhere?
I don't recall.
Like, someone's car got fucking melted because the glass windows were, like, concentrating
Burj
sunlight.
Khalifa in India?
I do not remember where. I just remember hearing about this thing.
Or no, I think it was in Britain. It wasn't,
I remember it being, like, a city. Well, obviously.
Yeah, it was some skyscraper in Britain. It just turned into a giant magnifying glass and melted some dude's car. So they had to, like, redo the windows and everything with tinting and whatnot, so that wouldn't happen again.
Yeah, so I'm just like, what were the design specs of this glass castle? What kind of crazy architect put this shit together in a way that wasn't going to just set fire to the countryside? Like, what the fuck?
I mean, given this is, like, only, Victorian era at the latest, they wouldn't know that shit.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, well, multiple times throughout this book, the glass has been described as being more or less opaque. But then we've got the light glinting off of it and blinding her, which just seems like a massive liability to everyone who lives in the surrounding area. Anyway, but there he was, just a hand's breadth from her fingers, his gray eyes wide, his arms swinging as if he could turn them into wings. In a heartbeat, her arms were around his middle, and she slammed into him so hard that the breath was knocked from her chest. Together they plummeted like a stone, down, down, down toward the rising ground. Nox grabbed the rope, but even that wasn't enough to lighten the blinding impact of her torso as the rope went taut. Okay, again, we have blinded and blinding. And blinding impact isn't even, like, a good descriptive...
Her spine right now just snapped like a candy cane.
Yeah, she just Gwen Stacy'd herself, like, right the fuck out of existence.
Her spine snapped. Her life over.
Her breasts small. I needed a third thing. She held on to him with every ounce of strength she had, willing her arms not to let him go. The rope sent them careening toward the wall. Alysicles hardly had the sense to lean her head away from the approaching stones. That's not because she's falling, that's just because she's stupid. And the impact burst through her side and shoulder. She held tight to him still, focusing on her arms, on her too shallow breathing. They hung there, flat against the wall, panting as they looked at the ground 30 feet below. The rope held.
Bitch, your spine is gone.
So all of that was bullshit.
Her spine snapped like a fresh
twig.
biscotti. Like, you cannot tell me that impact wouldn't have just snapped her spine in two.
Like, on the one hand, thanks for finally showing her doing something cool and badass and action hero-y instead of just having her tell us what she would have done while he plummeted to his death and actually died. But it's so cartoonishly off the wall, pun intended, that it's like, I don't buy this. I don't believe that she could pull this off when she can't even manage running up a hill without barfing her guts out afterwards. Like, bullshit, she's gonna hold on to him while this rope basically cuts her in half and smash into the castle wall and not slip. Like, go for the middle, okay? Like, if you're gonna do something insane like this, she did not roll a 20, okay? She rolled enough that she saved his life, but maybe, okay, she catches him in the air, the rope doesn't get tight immediately, or at least not before they, smack into the castle wall. When they smack into the wall, she drops him. Mm-hmm. But that was enough to slow the fall so that he is just kind of, sliding down the side of the castle for those last 30 feet. He's able to, grab on and get a foothold. Because they've been climbing the side of this castle, so there's got to be some kind of grip that he could latch onto there. And maybe he just, breaks his leg or something, and he's out of the competition, but he doesn't die.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a 100% successful rescue, is what I'm saying. You could still have her doing something cool and badass and selfless, if that's what you want to show us, and, have her be that kind of character that would risk her life for this person, who's kind of her friend. But it doesn't have to be pulled off without a hitch like this, where it's like, oh yeah, she got a little banged up, but she, didn't drop this guy who was presumably well over her weight. Upper body strength isn't supposed to be one of her fortes, except, obviously with the whole Yubo debacle. Apparently she is just a bodybuilder. What I'm saying is, if you want this to have believable stakes, and you want people to root for your character and have your character do the cool and awesome thing without immediately destroying any narrative tension that they could ever fail at something, find out what's your worst case option, find out what's your best case option, and then go for something in the middle. Right? Worst case scenario here is either A, she doesn't do anything and Nox just dies and we all think she's a huge bitch.
Mm-hmm.
Which she is, but I digress. Or this utterly fails and they both die.
Yeah.
The best case scenario is that this goes off without a hitch and she rescues him. And if she takes any damage at all, it is negligible. She is able to recover from it fairly quickly.
Yeah.
Anywhere in the middle would be one or both of them does take some damage. Maybe she attempts to rescue him, but he dies. She dies anyway. Wouldn't that be great?
It'd be like they just pull a psycho and kill the main character off, like in the first.
And then the rest of the book is Nox's revenge quest.
Yeah.
You know, like, she could attempt to save him, but he still dies. Gwen Stacy, that shit. They both live, but he's disqualified and she's heavily injured. Definitely they fail this contest. And then the prince makes a stand for her being allowed to stay in anyway because she did this crazy thing. Like,
yeah.
You know, there's a lot of different ways that you could do this without it being this unrealistic. And I know it's weird to complain about realism in a fantasy book, and normally I bitch about people who do that. But I'm not talking realism in terms of, well, what's the spice trade like in this fantasy realm? I'm talking realism as in, why will I ever be worried about her ever again if she could pull this off?
For real, though.
There's no tension now to any action scene that she's... You know, I'm gonna fucking say it. I'm so sorry.
Bum bum.
I'm so fucking sorry.
We're gonna bring this back.
This was the fucking problem with Warrior Cats Art 3 Outcast. Because they made Lion Blaze's power, or Lion Paw,
Well,
I
see,
guess,
I thought you were gonna say the dirty word.
What's the dirty word?
Mary Sue.
Oh, yeah, well, that too. That too. Mary Sue.
Okay, I feel like Mary Sue as a term has been so watered down that it means nothing. But we have to remember that the original definition of a Mary Sue is that the rules of the universe bend to this character's existence.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, any other character, this would kill them, but not the Mary
her.
Sue, because she's special.
You know, we are aware that she has normal people bones that can be broken because
Arabin Hamill made her break her hand.
Her tragic backstory required her to have broken bones. But in this situation where literally, as far as we know, gravity is not different on this planet,
she does not have an adamantium skeleton.
She does not have an adamantium skeleton, as shown by her tragic backstory. This would have snapped anyone else's spine. And you can look up reasons why that would happen.
Or at least she would have dropped him.
Yeah, there's some velocity science that I'm not smart enough to explain in a YouTube video for sure. But yeah, her spine should have snapped. Just realistically, if she didn't have crazy strong skeleton, her bones would be broken. She would have dropped him. Her spine would be in two. If she was not dead, she would be paralyzed for the rest of her life.
Yeah, and even then, even circling back to it's fantasy, who cares about real science and shit, at least she would have dropped him.
Yeah.
Which is why I bring up fucking Warrior Cat's fucking lion paw ass, because his superpower, the superpower that he was given, is that he, like, never loses a battle.
Mm-hmm.
Any battle that he goes into, he will win. And how the writers used that and worked it into different fight scenes got a little inconsistent, but fun regardless. But it takes the narrative tension out of any fight that this character goes into because you know he's going to win. He literally cannot lose.
I mean...
So who gives a shit if he fights with someone?
At least when in regards to Lion Paw, if I recall correctly, he's kind of a freaking idiot.
Yeah, he's a fucking himbo.
So, like, him winning a fight doesn't necessarily mean everyone on his side wins the fight.
Yeah, but then he becomes like, you know, Superman who just dives in and ends the fight before anyone else can
that's boring.
Get into it. Like,
let's not do that, guys. Come on now.
And like, you know, it's been years, so I am probably misremembering a few things. I'm sure that there were times that this power did backfire and he took things too far. To my knowledge, he is one of the few ThunderClan cats that, like, killed multiple people on accident, more or less. And that's not good. But it's not like, I don't know, it was used badly. Like, it really cut out a lot of the tension. I remember that being a big complaint at the time, and a big complaint about that arc, once he realizes what his power is that he's basically just a freaking lightning tank that just barrels through the enemy.
Yeah, that's boring.
He lifts an entire ass tree at one point. Like, he just has super strength cat. Also.
How? I don't think the super strength gave him opposable thumbs.
No, he stands under it and, like, lifts up with his back. And lifts an entire fucking tree. Because somehow never lose a battle also equals super strength and, like, super healing and a bunch of shit. But anyway, so I had to go back to Warrior Cats for this. That's how... Now, watch her, like, actually lose and just completely obliterate the last 10 minutes that we've been bitching about.
Yeah.
Lillian, Knox said, gasping for breath. I forgot what accent I gave him, and I'm not gonna go back to it.
It was Bandit.
It was Bandit?
Yes.
Oh, shit. Well, okay, then I have to, because we got to see
Chili and Bandit. It's Sack Anime. And C is a very... it's doing a lot of strength here, because I was completely blind at the time, so you got to see Chili and Bandit, and I got to hear, and I was vaguely aware that I think Bandit's voice actor was wearing a cowboy hat.
He was. Yes.
Perfect. Wonderful. 10 out of 10.
I couldn't really see him from where we were sitting, but I could see Melanie Zanetti. So it was great. I will admit, though, that I was mostly watching the closed captioning, because that was nice that they had that. So whenever one of the panelists would speak into the microphone, they had, like, a program, like, projecting what they were saying onto a really big screen, so that people in the back and if you were having hearing issues, you still knew what the hell they were saying, which is really good for me in my audio processing. So I was mostly looking at that. But alright, I'm gonna do very terrible at my Bandit voice.
Okay.
Because I haven't...
It's alright.
It's fine. Lillian, Knock said, gasping for breath. He pressed his face onto her hair. God's above, mate. Wackadoo.
Wackadoo.
Chili Bandit 2024. Vote wackadoo. But cheers erupted from below and drowned out his words. Alyssa and everybody clapped. Alysicles' limbs trembled so violently that she had to focus on gripping Knox, and her stomach turned over and over and over.
Oh, she's gonna throw up? No!
God damn it.
Her spine is snapped in half, and the only thing she can do is throw up about it.
It's like when a character has... It's like Secret of Nim 2. Martin suffers like a mass psychotic break, and they just put a bandage on his head and he's fine.
That's how you take care of mass psychotic breaks, don't you know?
But they were still in the middle of the test, still expected to complete it, and Alysicles looked up. All the champions had stopped to see her save the falling thief.
Why the fuck did they stop?
All except one who perched high, high above them. Alysicles could only gape as the flag was ripped down, and Cain howled his triumph. More cheers rose up to meet them as Cain waved the flag for everyone to see.
Literally,
she seethed
literally
and coped.
Why the fuck would any of them stop? They didn't stop when that one guy fell off to his death. They were just like, loser.
She would have won if she'd taken the easy route. She would have gotten there in half the time it took Kane.
But you didn't!
But Kale told her to stay in the middle anyway. Yes, we've been over this. And her path had been far more impressive and demonstrative of her skills. Kane just had to jump and swing, amateur scaling. Besides, if she had won, if she'd gone the easy way, she wouldn't have saved Nox. So I guess it's a good thing that Kale told you to stay in the middle then, huh? It's almost like he has a strategy and a plan that's working out in your favor so far. Ungrateful fucking bitch. She clenched her jaw. Could she get back up there in time? Perhaps Nox could take the rope, and she'd just scale the wall with her bare hands. There was nothing worse than second place. But even as she thought it, Varen, Grave, Pelor, and Renal climbed the last few feet to the spot, tapping it with a hand before descending. Oh no, so just complete it. Just all you have to do is finish. Lillian, Nox, hurry up, Brullo called, and she peered down at the weapons master. Give him a break, damn. Alyssa scowled and started sliding her feet along the cracks in the stone, looking for a foothold. Her skin, raw and bleeding in spots, stung as she found a crevice for her toes to squeeze into. Carefully, she pulled herself up. I'm sorry. Is that how you do it in Aussie? Sorry.
Sorry.
No,
that's more Canadian.
It's more, yeah, I'm like, that's Canadian. Sorry.
I don't know. Fucking...
Sorry, mate.
The mate. It becomes Australian. That's how it works, right? And if you're talking to your friends in a bar, you say, sorry, you cunt.
Fuck off, you cunt. Nox breathed, his legs knocking into hers as he also sought out a foothold. It's fine, she told him. Shaking, numb, Alyssa climbed back up the wall, leaving Nox to figure out the way on his own. Foolish. It had been so foolish to save him. What had she been thinking? Imagine he just falls and dies anyway. Time skip Tildy. We're not going to find out how the rest of this goes.
Okay.
Why did they not just have this be in the last... Oh, right, because there was an actual cliffhanger in the last chapter's ending. Cheer up, Kale said, drinking from his glass of water. 18th place is fine. At least Nox placed behind you. Alyssa said nothing and pushed her carrots around on her plate. It had taken 2 baths and an entire bar of soap to get the tar off her aching hands and feet, and Philippa had spent 30 minutes cleaning out the binding the wounds on each. And though Alyssa had stopped shaking, she could still hear the shriek and thump of Ned Clement hitting the ground. They'd carried his body away before she finished the test. Only his death had saved Nox from elimination. Grave hadn't even been scolded. There had been no rules against playing dirty. Yeah, so why didn't the mercenary just fucking cut her rope?
I don't know. That's stupid.
One less competitor. You're doing exactly like we planned, Kale went on, though I'd hardly consider your valiant rescue to be entirely discreet. She glared at him. Well, I still lost. Yes. You shouldn't start placing until you're down to the last 10. While Dorian had congratulated her for saving Nox, and while the thief had hugged and thanked her again and again, only Kale had frowned when the test was over. Apparently daring rescues weren't part of a jewel thief's repertoire. Kale's brown eyes shone golden in the midday sun. No, you put that valuable mineral away, sir. Your eyes are brown. You are not a love interest. Wasn't learning to lose gracefully part of your training? No, she said sourly. Arabin told me that second place was just a nice title for the first loser. Arabin Hamel? Kale asked, setting down his glass. The king of the assassins? Okay, Kale, I'm sorry. Normally you have a brain cell. Who the fuck else, Kale? That's what she is. An assassin. A famous one. Aderlin's assassin. Did you think she was not connected to the King of Assassins somehow? God, everyone is stupid now. Kale's just losing brain cells due to radiation exposure. She looked toward the window and the glittering expanse of Rifthold, barely visible beyond it. It was strange to think that Arabin was in the same city, that he was so close to her now. You know he was my master, don't you? I'd forgotten, Kale said. How?
How did you forget that?
Even if you had forgotten, her just saying his name should have, clicked on a piece of your memory and been like, oh, right, her teacher.
Yeah.
Arabin would have flogged her for saving Nox, jeopardizing her own safety and place in this competition. He oversaw your training personally? He trained me himself, and then brought in tutors from all over Aeriel. The fighting masters from the rice fields of the southern continent, poison experts from the Bogdano jungle. Once he sent me to the silent assassins in the Red Desert. No price was too high for him, or me, she added, fingering the fine thread on her bathrobe. He didn't bother to tell me until I was 14 that I was expected to pay him back for all of it. He trained you and then made you pay for it? She shrugged, but was unable to hide the flash of anger. Courtesans go through the same experience. They're taken in at a young age, and are bound to their brothels until they can earn back every coin that went into their training, upkeep, and wardrobe. Mm-hmm. That's despicable, he spat, and she blinked at the anger in his voice, anger that for once was not directed at her. Did you pay it back? Kale, I feel like this is common knowledge, I'm afraid. This is typically how these kinds of jobs work. It's not just, or fair, or moral, but a lot of things about capitalism aren't. What, do you think the King of Assassins just took her in and trained her out of the goodness of his own heart?
I mean, maybe Dorian has the brain cell today.
Dorian must have the brain cell today. Dorian must have some kind of meeting where he needs to think about things.
Yeah.
A cold smile that didn't reach her eyes spread across her face. Oh, down to the last copper. And he then went out and spent all of it. Over 500,000 gold coins, gone in 3 hours. Kale started from his seat. She shoved the memory down so deep that it stopped hurting. You still haven't apologized, she said, changing the subject before Kale could inquire further. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure that he has a lot of ways to spend 500,000 gold coins. He probably has other people to train and, boarding. He's running a business here. Apologized for what? For all the horrid things you said yesterday afternoon when I was sparring with Nehemia. He narrowed his eyes, taking the bait. I won't apologize for speaking the truth. The truth? You treated me like I'm a crazed criminal. And you said that you hated me more than anyone alive. I meant every word of it. However, a smile began to tug at her lips, and she soon found it reflected on his face. He tossed a piece of bread at her, which she caught in one hand and threw back at him. He caught it with ease. Idiot, she said, grinning now. Crazed criminal, he returned, grinning too. Mad machine! Fuck, I forgot her name. Shit. I saw you over there and I was like, I gotta get this bitch back and Endred could kite or save me.
No!
What's her name?
My brain is mush. I can't...
This is what happens when they don't shout each other's names all the time like Kagome and Inuyasha. I want to say Fuyumi, but that is not correct.
No. One sec. I'm pretty sure it starts with an M.
Mayu?
No. It's, one sec. Save me, Google.
Google save me. Oh, Frodo's out. Hi, Frodo. Yeah, unfortunately, Mary passed away last weekend, so not while we were at Sac Anime, before that. So yeah, it's just Frodo now.
Mitsuko.
Mitsuko.
Yes.
Mad machine, Mitsuko yelled. Fuck.
She only says it once, though.
And once was enough to meme it forever.
Once is enough because Jiro gets a fucking complex about it. Like, he gets a complex about everything. Man was born sexy yesterday. He's very impressionable.
Anyway, just had to do something to make sure Ray was still paying.
Here. I'm paying attention. I'm just very tired.
Yeah. I really do hate you. At least I didn't come in 18th place, he said. Oh, they're cutting deep.
He's like, failure. Failure. Just dead. Dead on the floor. Family Guy death pose.
Alexis felt her nostrils flare, and it was all Kael could do to duck the apple she chucked at his head. It wasn't until later that Philippa brought the news. The champion who hadn't shown up for the test had been found dead in a servant's stairwell, brutally mauled and dismembered. What a fucking whiplash. And we go back to my issue of Chapter 2. What is the tone?
I don't know.
What is the mood at any time? Time skip Tildy. The new murder cast a pall over the next 2 weeks, and the 2 tests they brought with them. Selena passed the tests, stealth and tracking, without drawing much attention. Oh, so we don't even get to, see these 2. It's just, there were 2 more tests she passed.
Aren't these tests supposed to be part of the plot?
Stealth and tracking, without drawing too much attention to herself, or risking her neck to save anyone. What? We don't get to listen to her complain about being in the middle? On the 2 things that she, at least one actually should be placing pretty well in, she should be allowed to show off during stealth.
Yeah, she was a jewel thief.
If her cover's a jewel thief and she's an assassin, it would be totally in character for her to do really well at the stealth test. So she could have actually, come in top 5 on that one and not gotten Kay all pissed at her. Whatever, we'll skip it. It's not like it's important or anything. It's not like it's the whole draw of the book that it was marketed with. I couldn't make it all the way through the Locked Tomb trilogy. There was just too much to keep track of for me. But I will say that, from what I understand of Gideon the Ninth, it did this so much better. With this whole, we've got all these, competitors from around the whatever, not kingdom, I guess. So they're, on different planets or some shit. But, across the galaxy, we've got all these competitors together, and now we're going to have, a murder mystery plot.
Wasn't Gideon the Ninth the one that it was, obvious that the creator read Homestuck?
Yes, but, affectionate.
Yeah.
Positive. Definitely the creator was a Homestuck fan, but pulled it off really well.
I mean, listen, any Homestuck fan that I've ever met could write better than Hussey.
Yeah. So that's not a derogatory statement, but there were just a lot of balls in the air on that one that I couldn't keep track of because my fucking attention span could never. But I feel like this is just a really bad Gideon the Ninth. Because Gideon the Ninth does a lot of the things that this book is trying to do, it just does them actually well. From the, we're going to have a bunch of people competing to, it's a murder mystery now, to, this has larger world-building consequences. It just does everything better. So basically, if you're listening to this and you're like, wow, how could they fuck it up this bad? Read the Locked Tomb trilogy, or I guess it's not a trilogy anymore, but read the Locked Tomb series, and hopefully your brain isn't Swiss cheese like mine, and you can actually understand it. I wish I could read it. I want to. It seems like something I would really enjoy. But if my brain is not ready to hyperfixate on that shit, I will not understand it. I've tried. I've tried and failed.
It was kind of like trying to read through Homestuck, honestly. I assume that's what it was similar to, where it's you had to really be in the mood to read Homestuck, otherwise you were not getting anywhere.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of lore, there's a lot of characters, there's a lot of you feel like you needed to do some homework before you started reading. It was a lot. But I appreciate what it is and what it does. Okay, back to this shit. without drawing much attention to herself or risking her neck to save anyone. No other champions were murdered, thankfully, but Alexis still found herself looking over her shoulder constantly, even though Kayal seemed to consider the 2 murders to be just unfortunate incidents. Yeah, Kayal ain't got the brain cell no more. Every day she got better at running, going farther and faster, and managed to keep from killing Kane when he taunted her at training. The Crown Prince didn't bother to show his face in her rooms again, and she only saw him during the tests, when he usually just grinned and winked at her and made her feel ridiculously tingly and warm. But she had more important things to worry about. There were only 9 weeks left until the final duel, and some of the others, including Nox, were doing well enough that those 4 spots were starting to seem rather precious. Kane would definitely be there, but who would make it to the other final 3? Who would the other final 3 be? She'd always been so sure she'd make it, but if she were honest with herself, Alexis wasn't so sure anymore. Why? What has happened to impact your confidence in your own skills in any way? Because apparently you did just fine on the last 2 tests, and the scaling one you only did badly on because you stopped to save Nox. So, why aren't you confident anymore?
I don't know, man. I feel like her characterization yo-yos so heavily that it's like, for all that we are stuck in this character's brain against my will, I swear to God, her motivations tend to just confuse and baffle me, and her different moods can continue to confuse and baffle me.
She's just a fucking ditto. She's just a little ditto taking the shape of whatever she needs to be.
Don't you dare take Ditto's name in vain like that.
She's a low IV ditto.
Even low IV dittos will help you breed for something better.
Oh, don't mention breeding. This is fucking Sarah J. Maas, the goddamn Omega-verse for het people writer. If you've read ACOTAR, you know. Don't mention breeding here. No. Colleen Hoover is the one with the breeding kink. I will say that SJM basically writes Omega-verse for straight people, but not in the breeding kink sense. Colleen Hoover, on the other hand.
Colleen Hoover is just all like, they must be pregnant.
Like, I have not read a Colleen Hoover book, and I will not because of that in particular. Like, that just squicks me out too much. It is a legitimate, like, psychological issue that I have. So I will not read her books because I have been made aware of there being a lot of, like, pregnancy kink in them. Anyway, yeah, a lot of other people have, so you could just watch their videos. But anyway, we made it through another chapter. Not very much happened. It just kind of concluded the last chapter, and then time skipped over 2 tests because I'm sure that we weren't interested in seeing those at all.
No, we want to go back to the love triangle, and also more Alexis saying how badass she is, and then not really doing much badass except for that one thing that would have snapped her spine in half.
Yeah, and it's not like the challenges have been exceptionally fun or engaging anyway, but I do just feel kind of insulted that we don't even get to see 2 of them. After waiting this long to see another test, and then we just time skip over 2 more of them. Like, the pacing is horrendous, and we could have, if you had the second test happen a little sooner in the book, there would have been time to show us the other ones. But instead, you just had to have her whinging and bitching and doing this love triangle shit, which I'm not even sure it's a love triangle yet, because she doesn't have chemistry with either Kayal or Dorian. I think they are boyfriends.
Yeah.
They have had more chemistry with each other than either of them have had with her.
Well, you know.
She had some decent chemistry with Nehemia.
Yeah, but I would much rather see Nehemia with someone better than her.
Yeah, that's true too. Alright, so I guess we'll go to the next one, and who knows, maybe they'll be down to the final four by then, and then we'll just spend the rest of the book with her whinging about how Cain is an asshole. The worst thing that you could be in this competition, an asshole.
Where's Fluttershy?
Well, we know Fluttershy ranked at least in the top 10 of the climbing challenge.
So he doesn't suck.
So he doesn't suck. Maybe he was the killer.
He was the killer.
Who knows? Well, we'll find out next time. Bye!
Bye!
Thank you so much for watching, and a special thank you to my patrons. If you'd like to see your name here or in the description below, please consider joining my Patreon. Your support means so much to me and allows me to continue making content. If you want to support my content in different ways, consider buying my books, donating on Ko-fi, subscribing to the channel, or even just giving this video a like and comment. Any and everything is appreciated so much. Keep growing till next time, Rose Garden!